All right, so we are ready to call the meeting to order. So we'll go to item 2 on our agenda, roll call and establishment of a quorum. Can you?
Chairman Zenner Davis,
Here.
Commissioner Roeder,
Here.
Vice Chairperson Heidi Goldstein.
Present.
All right, so we have a quorum.
I think our visitor for the closed session is here now. I think there's another, yeah, there we go. Okay, never mind. Sorry to interrupt.
All right, so we're gonna go to item 3 on the agenda, and that's public comment. We allow 15 minutes for public comment. So if you have a public comment, please speak now. All right, so we are now going to move on to item 4 on our agenda, and that's the approval and adoption of the agenda. So commissioners, any questions, concerns, or do I have a move to approve?
I just have one minor correction, I think.
Mhm.
And that is on item 5A, where it says Personnel Commission will meet in closed session to discuss potential litigation. I don't think that's potential litigation. I think it's a disciplinary appeal.
I agree.
Are
So-
we okay moving forward? Are we okay moving forward if we make that edit?
Yes, I would so move.
And do I have a second?
Yes. Do we need to vote on that? No, I think it's the right correction. Yes, I second. Okay.
All right, I agree. So, excellent. So, agenda is approved. And so now we're going to move on to item 5 on the agenda. And tonight that is the closed session. And as Commissioner Roeder pointed out, we will be discussing the personnel dispute and then also performance evaluation of the executive director. Not sure how long that's going to take. So folks in the building, you can hang out until we come back, and folks online, you'll be put into the waiting room. And when we enter back, we'll bring you back in and get on with the rest of tonight's business. All right, excuse me. We are back from closed session. In closed session, we met with a hearing officer candidate for the disciplinary appeal hearing. And so we voted to delegate oversight of the hearing to the hearing officer, and we will be ratifying the agreement at our December 13th meeting. We also met to kind of update the progress on the performance evaluation for the executive director. And so we will be consolidating some stuff and then moving forward with that, hopefully also at the next meeting. All right, so we are now at item 7 on our agenda, and that's approval of the minutes. And we have minutes from October 21st, which is a regular meeting, and then also November 8th, 2023. And that was a special meeting. Do the commissioners have any questions, concerns about those minutes?
I did not have any changes.
And nothing. I'll just note it's October 25th, regular meeting, I think.
Yes.
Okay. Nope, no changes. So I would move that we adopt the meetings from October 25th as they are.
Second,
And I agree.
and I'll move that we adopt the November 8th, 2023 special meeting minutes as presented.
I'll second.
And I will agree.
Okay.
All right, so we are now at item 8, reports. And so we'll see if the union has any reports. Okay, is it Mildred? Union, go ahead.
Can you all hear me?
We can.
Yeah.
Thank you so much. I would like to discuss, the testing process that, occurs through our, how testing and, is done. I remember in 2021, we brought the concern to the board, to the commission, regarding how testing is being the testing score is being constantly changed. And we talked about there was a test during that time in July 2nd of 2021 and I was dealing with a promotional person who had an opportunity to advance, but due to the changing of the test score, it caused that promotional person to not be able to go forward to the next step. And they at that time received a score of 70, but the testing score, the passing score was changed to 75. So we have been talking about this and the process and the way that testing has been done for some time now. And it's constantly just being raised a concern because we're constantly having our members coming to us saying that they have taken a test and they can receive a score anywhere between 70 and 80, sometimes 81, but then they don't have the opportunity to go to the next step because the passing score is it could be 85. So recently we have a member, a promotional person who has been working in the position out of class in the position of a supervisor for almost 2 years now. They have been working in this position and they received a score of 77. But the passing score was changed to 80. So once again, here we are eliminating the possibility of our members having a chance to move forward due to the score being changed. And even recently before that one, with the after school specialist who had the opportunity to go for promotion, we had an after school program specialist receive a score of an 80, and then the passing score was changed to 85. So us constantly fluctuating and changing this passing score is knocking out promotional people. And we constantly talk about how we encourage and help our members to be able to have the opportunity to promote, but the constant changing of the score is eliminating our members. And that's a huge concern. In addition to that, the inconsistency of us not knowing what the passing score is. We talked about before that prior to you taking a test, you should know what is the passing score, what determines, so let me back up because it's just a lot on my mind with this whole situation. Before you take a test, you should know what the passing score is. But the way we're running our test, no one knows what the passing score is because all of these things happen behind the scenes that we don't know. And then the next thing you know, you can receive a high score, but then you're completely kicked out. So even with this last situation, again, they received a 77. It was told to the union that it was due to so it was not a manageable number to move on to the next step because because too many people passed. So and too many people passed with a higher score of 77, but a lot of the people scored 79, so they made the passing score 80. This is what was told to the union. And it doesn't make sense because not only do we want people to make the list, but we're knocking people off the list because we're saying that we have too many people. So would it consist of too many people? So then we asked how many people took the test. We were told 20 people took the test. Okay, well, how many people passed? We didn't get that answer yet. But if you had 20 people take the test, we don't know how many people passed, but we have a promotional person who received a passing score, a normal would be considered a passing score, but they're completely eliminated because we raised the score to 80. It doesn't make sense. So we don't know what the process is and what is happening behind closed doors to where we just don't know. We don't know what's going on. So, and this is not to blame anybody. This is just to find out what is going on to where promotional employees are being knocked out the competition to where they're not able to go to the next step. It's not making sense. So we would like some answers, and we would just like to really talk about and work on how the testing process is actually happening. And it would be, you know, as I was talking to Charlie yesterday, you know, I know in the past we had a set score of 70 in the past. That was past practice. And I understand their reason for well, I heard what they said, their reason for changing or having the chance to either go up or down. It's just a lot that just really doesn't make sense. But I'm bringing to your attention that we really need to find out what is the criteria for constantly changing the score, and why is it that no one knows what is the passing score prior to them taking a test. So I would really like to put that on your heart and mind to find out what is going on with the testing process, what is the criteria, and why the employees doesn't know, or anybody don't know what the passing score is prior to taking a test. I don't think that people should go and take a test and then they don't know what the passing score is, and you can receive a 79, an 80, and then the next thing you know, you didn't pass because the score has been raised to 85 or 90. So in this particular case, with it being 20 people that have taken the test and then promotional person receiving a 77 is of great concern. So I know that it's going to cause, we'll be back to try to find out more and more of what happened in this situation. So thank you for that. That's my report for today.
Thank you, Mildred. Did anybody have any questions, comments on?
No.
All right. Okay, cool. Moving on to district reports. Anyone from the district have a report? Not seeing any hands. All right, so then we will go on to commissioner reports. Commissioners. Izzy?
Okay, thank you, Mr. Chairman. So let's see, very briefly, first of all, I want to welcome everybody back from Thanksgiving break and hope that everybody had a very restful and enjoyable Thanksgiving, number one. Number two, this is Timothy Zahner Davis's last meeting. So once again, I want to thank Tim for all of the efforts that you've put in over the past 3 years to this commission, and especially during this last year as our chairman. I think you've done a tremendous, stellar job as chairman, and I wish you all of the best in all of your endeavors in the future, and I hope that our paths can cross again sometime.
Thank you, Commissioner Roeder.
And I do have one last substantive thing,
Oh, cool.
which is based on Mildred Scher's comments about testing. We have talked about testing, I think a couple of years ago in this context. I think that Mildred raises some very important questions. And I think that number one, clarity, and number two, notification to the members in the job application process could be very helpful. So I would request that at some meeting soon, one of our next meetings, when we have time to discuss this, that it be placed on the testing, be placed on the agenda so we can have a formal discussion about it. And that's all I have. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Commissioner Roder. Commissioner Goldstein?
Thank you. Thank you. I'll also extend my well wishes to our chairperson. You're an extremely talented individual. I hope BUSD is able to get you back in some other capacity at some other time. It's been wonderful to have you on the commission and to serve with you. We won't let you go very far. Looking forward to Tim Carter joining the commission. I don't know how many years he was on the commission, but I know he knows and understands how the commission operates. Great thinker. So we are losing a great talent, but we are also getting a great talent, and we're lucky that way. A few other things. If you haven't really read through the November 9th minutes that we approved earlier, I'd really encourage you to do it. It is a great summary of the processes and the issues and the next steps relevant to the class and comp study. So if you need a cheat sheet on that, those minutes are great. Well done, Sarah, summarizing those. I'm looking forward to our meeting on the 13th, where I think we will hear about phase 3 and phase 4, which includes some compensation recommendations. And that is really where the rubber meets the road. So excited to hear about that, as well as what came of some of the job descriptions that were surfaced when we had the readout on phase 2, the family engagement job descriptions, and the oh goodness, there was one other one and I didn't write it down, but there were a couple that needed attention. I'll be interested to just understand what the result was on that. One other thing I'm interested in hearing about is, at the last meeting we identified that in phase 2 there were 23 classes, job classes, where no response was received from people in those job classes. And Rick Labib from Eric Hall and Associates shared that when that's the case, we just assume that the job descriptions are okay. And that was concerning to me. I know that the steering committee met about a week after we met. I don't know if that was an item that the steering committee undertook, but I am interested in hearing what the disposition was that of those 23 that really didn't receive any response. So I think that's about it for me.
Thank you, Vice Chair. And so I will just say that it's been an honor working with all of you. This was something, being a part of this commission was never on my radar until Tim Carter recruited me. So it's like so awesome that I'm leaving and he's coming back on. I feel like, hopefully, I've held his place well. I just think that you all have really helped me grow in ways that have actually been reflected in other areas of my work life, in my kind of vocational life. And so I really appreciate all of you. And I hope that Izzy, that our paths do cross again, just because you're just awesome people. I feel, I feel very welcome, very safe with you all. Thank you so much for this experience. There's a lot of great work that got done over these last 3 years. There's more great work to be done. Again, it's great that you're going to have Tim Carter coming in, because I think that means there will be no real lag and having to bring, him up to speed on this work that you are all going to be doing. And I just think it's going to leave this commission and the district in a much better place as we are engaging in all of these great things. So thank you all so much. All right, and with that, I will turn it over to the executive director.
Thank you, Tim. We clapped, but I still want to say that my own personal thank you that with Tim, I appreciated your patience. I appreciated that you let me talk longer than was probably allowable for anyone to hash out ideas, and that you were always very supportive and you always had an open mind. And even in the few times we disagreed, there were very few, but you took the time to kind of explain your reasoning, and I always appreciated that. So I'm not going to say goodbye. I'm just going to say farewell for now, because I know that we'll be in touch, and I look forward to that as well. But thank you. Your service has been really great. So I know I have several presentations tonight, so let me just stick to the regular report out, or exams report for October 2023. We had 266 total exams. Again, for the month of October, that's a large number of exams. 163 were written, 11 were oral, 92 were training and assessment exams, and there were no performance exams in October. We had 15 new hires on the classified side, which is great. And 2 of those were promotions, which we're always very happy about. And we have 8 lists this month. I may direct your attention to 4 of those are in the IAIT series, and one of them is the ITT, the Instructional Technology Technician, which is a new position that we help create. And that's it for now, since I'm going to be reporting a little later, and I'll expand on that. If I can, Chairperson, can I move on to the classification compensation study report?
Please do.
Thank you. So for phase 1, commissioners received for review the revised draft, just job descriptions, and the track changes, which you all received. There were 21 classifications that were recognized by the steering committee and BCCE as being ready to move forward for your review. To add to that, I just want to reiterate that this is no means the final recommendation or review. This is just the steering committee agreeing that these are the positions that they would like the commission to review because there's consensus around them. This does not include the positions that the unions want to meet and confer about, which they're already identifying. But this is really the first phase in which we're sharing the track changes with you. It also will allow for you to have a better sense of the job descriptions and what the supervisors and the employees' feedback was, and if it comes again. So it's important to report out that the commissioners are now receiving these job descriptions for their own review. There were 21 job descriptions that were shared. The remaining 21 classes in phase 1 were identified by the BCCE members on the steering committee as needing more attention prior to being moved forward for review. So it may be that the steering committee agrees to some changes that then you will review, or BCCE may decide on these all 21 or some of the 21 for meet and confer. Phase 2, as we all, as Vice Chair mentioned, EHA gave an update on phase 2 at the special meeting on November 8th. The commissioners gave us very strong direction to the expectations, and the steering committee is meeting tomorrow afternoon to continue reviewing phase 2, the draft revised job descriptions. Sarah is going to share the draft job descriptions and track changes format. And the hope is for phase 2 that at the 12/13 meeting, we'll have possibly some action items if there's no other objections to the recommendations that we can move forward. And I invited Commissioner Roeder to come to the meeting tomorrow. He's agreed to come. Heidi, I know you attended a meeting, but I'm going to invite you back to our December steering committee meeting, because I do strongly believe that the commissioners need to observe, you know, at least in the final phases as to how this is all turning out. Phase 3 and phase 4, we discussed with EHA an extension because there was no way that we were going to be able to complete this project with their recommendations in December. So EHA has agreed to see this through January 30th. And what that means for phase 3 is that EHA should have the draft revised job descriptions for the steering committee this week. These draft job descriptions are going to go out to the employees and the supervisor next week with the goal of having some feedback before December 21st. And for phase 4, EHA is going to share the comparison data for compensation in January. So our hope is that we wrap up phase 2, that we are looking at trying to have closure to phase 3 in mid-January with a final report for recommendations regarding compensation as part of phase 4. As Commissioner Roeder mentioned 2 meetings ago, this is the end of the recommendation phase from EHA, but there will be more conversations on the final phases of this project, which will involve meeting confers, recommendations from the PC, recommendations to the board, approval to the board. So again, this only marks the end of EHA's involvement at the end of January, but there'll be more to come. And then I think I will save the rest of my report for later. Thank you.
Thank you, Charlie. All right, so we'll move on to item 9 on the agenda, ratification of eligibility lists. Do the commissioners have any questions, comments?
I didn't.
I would only say that I'm delighted that these are robust
Yeah.
lists. They've got lots of ranks, and the changes in recruiting, I think, must be the reason for this, along with, as I look at the new talent that we're bringing into the district, it's great. So really, really pleased. And I see that the intervals, between testing, are still nice and tight. So
Mhm.
thank you for that. With that, should I move that we go ahead and certify the lists A through H as they are?
I second that.
And I agree. So it is done. Item 10 on the agenda, conference items. We will be looking at the 2022-2023 Personnel Commission Annual Report.
Chairperson, before we go to that, we have
Yes.
someone had a question.
Yes,
Denise.
Ms. Diggs Ray, please.
Just for clarification, so in looking at the eligibility list, so for the school campus aide, 32, what does the training and experience mean? And only out of that 32, only 12 did the written, but nobody did the oral or the performance. So I'm just confused with the training and experience, what that means.
Executive directors.
Did I lose that?
Just a moment, Ms. Diggs Ray.
All right, thank you.
Haven't done them for the month of October.
Oh, you haven't done them for the month of October.
That's correct.
It ran on to the next month? Okay.
Yeah.
So, Ms. Diggs Ray, did you hear that?
This only shows the month of October. So we didn't do them in the month of October, but that doesn't mean that it's not going to carry over into this month. It's just we can only reflect the month of October. Am I saying that correctly? Yeah. Denise, does that answer your question?
No, it doesn't. I'm just trying to understand what is the training and experience, because with the three groups, the school campus aide, instructional assistants, and instructional assistants ECE, you have three groups that had training and experience. What does that mean exactly?
That's, excuse me, that's an evaluation of their experience for the documentation, for the application that they've submitted.
Okay, and then out of 32 for school campus aid, only 12 of them were invited to take the written test. Is that because everything else besides the training experience wasn't done?
It's my understanding that's how many people took the test.
Okay, so when you say take the test, there may have been more invited, but only 12 actually showed up for the test?
That is correct.
Okay, thank you for that clarification.
You're welcome. Thank you for the question.
All right, so I don't see any other questions for that. So now we will move on to item 10.
Thank you, Chairperson. So I want to start by saying this is the third year I'm here. This is the third year of positive growth for the commission staff and the work that they're doing. I think it's reflected in the statistics. The areas that we saw positive increases for the district are in the areas of recruitment, new hires, the applications, the exams, and the adoption of the lists. We also responded to twice as many appeals this last year. 48 appeals is what I counted. Now, the relevance to that is that we are entertaining as many appeals as necessary for folks that believe that I need to review the exam materials. And again, we've done 48 of those. 2 were actually granted for the employees, which I should note. So that is a reflection of our getting feedback from the commissioners saying that we need to engage the employees and look into that. So I wanted to make that note because it's not in the statistical report. We also visited 5 schools, and I got to go to Berkeley High twice, which I thought was great because that's really how we really educate ourselves on what the needs are. In terms of statistics from last year to this year, we had our promotions went from 18 last year to 27 this year. We had 94 new hires as opposed to 90 last year. There were a large increase in recruitments. We had 85 last year and 108 this year. In terms of our application base, Vice Chair Goldstein referred to this, and this is really a reflection of the tremendous work that Erin and her team are doing in terms of the social media and the recruitment. But we had a jump of applications from 1,367 to 1,581, which is significant. And a decrease we like to see because it reflects retention, and this is something the district is getting right. Our separations decreased from 77 last year to 64 this year. So I think that's a reflection of the commission and the district doing something right. In terms of exams, we did do less performance exams this year. You may see that in some of the statistical information. And I think that that's just a reflection mostly of us trying to adapt to whatever the district needs are. Performance exams aren't always necessary. We found ourselves doing maybe possibly 2 written exams as opposed to written and a performance. Case by case basis. So that was that's what that represents. In terms of lists adopted, we stayed flat, but there's a small increase. We had 86 last year and 88 this year. So we didn't go down. We went a little up in terms of lists adopted. Other highlights this year, the district was very supportive and generous in helping us staff appropriately to get all of these things done. As you can see, they're all reflected in our numbers. Numbers don't lie. Really positive changes for the district in terms of hiring and everything I just mentioned. It cannot be understated or said enough that the position addition for us, the halftime position addition for us, has helped tremendously in terms of the administrative functions, and that's Sarah. Sarah's been a great addition this year. As you can all see, we're getting a lot more done. We're getting a lot more finished. We're meeting deadlines. We're meeting the district needs. I'm able to actually go out and spend more time with my colleagues in the district and help them one-on-one. So it's been a great addition. Thank you, Sarah. We created 3 new positions this year, and the executive director of fiscal services was, I will take at least half the credit. It was a partnership with HR. And we worked with Pauline Follensby, our Assistant Superintendent of Business Services, to really take a fresh look at what the needs are. And we did come up with the Executive Director of Fiscal Services title. We recruited, we were successful, and Emily started, I think, Monday. And I've met with her, and she's great. And I know she'll do great work for Pauline and the district. The safety coordinator, which was a position that we created with Mr. Calise, and we just hired for that Asia Evans, who was consulting with us on terms of the COVID reporting. She's been hired, and she's very excited to be with us. I just realized there's one more position I missed. So it's 4 positions. We also created a position, an executive, it's a director of facilities, also for our executive director of facilities, John Calise. We have not filled that one yet, but we are optimistic that we will. And lastly, the instructional technology technician position, which is meeting those needs in what is now a technology environment that was somewhere living between media and IT. So we've worked with the district on that, and I think that the list is robust. I think robust enough that we'll be able to fill that position soon. And Merit Rules Project, I think that Commissioner Roeder and I see each other every Friday. We've been dedicated to this project, and I think next year, I won't steal Commissioner Roeder's thunder, but we're now nearing the end of this phase, and I think we're going into another phase next year, which Commissioner Roeder will lead in terms of a second pass or a revision of what we've done so far. So I'm optimistic that this year will hopefully see this to completion, but it's been a huge, huge project. Every week we dedicate almost 2 hours to it, and we're nearing the end. So I'm looking forward to the completion of that. We worked this year on the exams, the security measures for our exams. Again, the exams and all of the feedback we get for them are important to us. So I think this year, applicants will see some changes to the exams in terms of security measures, addressing some identification and security measures for the exams. So that'll come out. And then lastly, I think I'm very proud about our involvement with the classification compensation study. I think that the district will receive a very comprehensive report. I think that my own personal experience was how much I learned from my colleagues on the steering committee and from talking to principals and hiring managers and the employees about what they do. So it's been a great experience for me, myself, and yeah, I look forward to 24. It'll be fun. Thank you.
Thank you, Executive Director. I see Ms. Diggs raise hand up. Ms. Diggs, is that from before or do you have a new question?
This is a new question in regards to the positions. Um, the personnel director just mentioned that they created, and I didn't write them all down, I don't think, but I know it was one was the executive director of facility and a director of fiscal, and then I think somebody in technology and somebody to do with safety. I'm just wondering, did you also create support positions for the director of facility and the director of fiscal? Like an admin assistant or executive assistant, some kind of support for these two directors?
Is the question, are we going to create new positions for the new positions or I'm sorry, Denise.
Yes, the question is, are you going to create new support positions for these two new administrators? I think the other two positions you mentioned are actually BCCE, I think. But I know that the two director positions that you mentioned probably will need support positions. So is that in the works, or are you going to give that extra duty to who's ever there already?
I think the district doesn't, in talking to the district, I don't think there's going to be an effort to create new support positions. I do think that we have existing support positions that if the district wanted to create requisitions to hire for, I think that they could do that. But I don't know of a need to create new support positions specific to the new positions that have been created.
And the reason I mention that is because a lot of times administrators come in and they don't get their own support. They have to rely on other people that are already doing other job duties, and that becomes overwhelming, and it kind of interferes with the workflow. So that's why I was asking, thinking, and this is not on you, and maybe the board, I don't know, but whenever a director's position is created, they probably need a support admin position as well. I looked at the director of fiscal. Before that support was the executive assistant for the associate superintendent of business services. And it's overwhelming, I know, as well as I've talked to others. So that's why I was asked, but that wouldn't happen unless a request is made by the district to do that. Is that correct?
That is correct. I mean, the district is the hiring authority. We would take direction from the district to say, the district would say, we want to hire an EA1 for the executive director of fiscal services, for example. And then we would offer the list or create an exam for it. But I believe we have an EA1 list now. So to answer your question, Denise, if the district requests that of us, we will do that.
I might add that I think when our executive director was talking about creating new positions, what the commission really created were new classifications that didn't exist previously. And the district human resources is what determines organizationally, how many FTE do we have and how many slots do we have, and are they interested in hiring? So the commission creates the classifications, based on specifications from the board, and the district makes determinations about actual staffing. So I hope that helps to clarify who does what.
Frank has a question.
Yeah, I saw that. Frank, go ahead.
Yeah, hello everyone. Yeah, I have a question about I'm sorry, hold on, I'm trying to pull it up. For the eligibility list, is that okay if I ask it? I don't know if I'm out of line or. I just have a question about the instructional assistant, early childhood, education. I see there's 5 ranks, and the 5th rank, it says decline after their name. I just want some clarification on what that means.
So I'm sorry, Frank, we made an error on that. I think that we printed that by mistake. Sometimes we keep internal records of who's declined and who's not, and that was left in there. So I apologize. We've since corrected it. But that wasn't supposed to be there. So I'm sorry about that.
Yeah, it's funny you said that. I would highly recommend in the future. I would like to bring this up in maybe another board meeting or another PC meeting. That I'm assuming you mean by decline that they declined to offer a job offer, and I think that would be nice to post that somewhere so we could see who's declining the jobs, so we could keep better track of what's going on. But my question now is, if they did, maybe you could correct me if I'm wrong, if the 5th one on that rank declined the job offer, I assume that we hired 3 people off that list before we got to even offer them a job. Would that be correct, that we hired 3 people off that list?
Everyone has been offered a job. And Frank, you already know this, but it's worth mentioning because it's on point. We collaborated with the district to offer, not for this one. Okay. Oh, that's right. Never mind. It's a different collaboration. But yeah, no, these folks have already been offered jobs. They've all been offered jobs.
Okay.
Okay.
All right. Thank you. So that was a misprint. All right. Thank you.
Thank you for the question.
Mhm.
Commissioners.
So going back just to the report, which I really appreciate, and not only for the narrative and the statistics, but also your additional information that just doesn't fit on, no matter how small we do the print, right? Doing that. So you've grown into the role tremendously.
Thank you. Thank you.
And I think that, what I see coming together, which I think is really nice, is external evidence that tells me that BUSD is attracting high quality candidates. I realize it causes some consternation that the CUT score floats, but it's a good sign when the CUT score floats, that you've got enough well-qualified candidates that, fundamentally the test was too easy and everybody is scoring high. So I see that we're getting good quality candidates. I see that we're getting a lot of new candidates as well as promoting. And the last piece of the puzzle is to understand from the class and comp study, how do we compare to peer districts in terms of what we offer? And I think it'll help give us some insights. Some of it, of course, is cash for doing the work, but some of it is also environment and who are your colleagues. And I think this class and comp study will help us understand a little bit more about what some of those intangibles are. So thank you for this. Nice to see.
Thank you.
Commissioner Roeder?
Yeah, I'd like to reiterate what Vice Chairperson Goldstein just said. I agree completely, and our staff and Charlie are to be 100% commended for these improvements in the statistics. They obviously demonstrate to me that there's been a lot of thought and creativity that has gone into our recruitments, our examination process. I think we can all agree that there's always room for further improvement.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's why we have been having our various special meetings and things like that. But I think this is a sign that the effort that all of us have tried to put into this is paying off. I hope, I don't know how, but I hope that the rest of the district whether it be the superintendent or the board of directors or the hiring managers or the union members involved can see this annual report and see that the commission is making constant improvements in its processes. So yes, thank you very much for this annual report.
Yeah, no, this is great. And I will just say that even, over my tenure on this commission, it's been interesting just to see the way things have changed. I mean, when I first came on, we were doing a lot of making sure that people were, who were working out of class were compensated and then, put into a different class or a step increase or whatever. And then it kind of transitioned into we're doing a lot of that at the beginning. So people are coming on and we're making sure that they're being compensated, in a way that we are drawing in and saying that we value good candidates who come to the district. And so it's just been really interesting just to see how the process has just gotten so much better over the last few years, so that we're no longer putting out fires. We're actually addressing some things as people are coming on. And I think that this report kind of reflects that. All right. Okay. So,
I think actually, do we have to vote to accept? the
oh,
report?
yes, I'm so sorry. Do I have a motion?
I'll motion. I think this report is well done, thorough, perfect out of the gate. So I move that we accept it as it is.
Yeah, I agree. I second that.
I agree.
Thank you.
Excellent. All right. Item 11, election of Personnel Commission chairperson and vice chairperson.
Would you like me to introduce this topic or?
Please do.
So, just for point of context, I just want to mention, so I think the best practice that we've previous to my time was that we would rotate each commissioner in kind of an order so that there is no one commissioner who is serving 2 years in a row. And I think there was the exception when I first started. There's circumstances around that's fine. But ideally, I think if memory serves, I think Commissioner Roeder was supposed to do last year. Tim stepped in. This year now with Tim exiting, it probably shouldn't be Commissioner Carter coming into this role. So I think what I'm trying to say with your exit and your departure, it's now between Commissioner Roeder and Vice Chair person Goldstein to decide who's going to be the vice and who's going to be the chair.
Yeah, I think your conclusion is correct. I would take a little bit of an exception to any hard and fast best practice rule about whether it's 1 year, 2 years. Our rules say nothing about that. There are no term limits. There's nothing along those lines. And sure, I think the circumstances of each year might dictate a different determination about, chair and vice chair. But I agree with you. It's either me or it's vice chairperson Goldstein.
Are we arm wrestling, flipping the coin? What are we doing here?
It can't be. Hey, Tim Carter, you're now the chair.
You know what? Actually, I'll dissent on that. If it was someone totally new to the commission, I would agree that isn't fair. Carter was a great chair. He will be a great chair again, or vice chair. He, I'm sure, as we speak, is reading through the minutes for the last year to acquaint himself with all the other issues that are there. I don't think it's fair to make him the chair coming in. I think there are some continuity requirements that, would put an undue burden on him. But I completely would support Tim Carter as vice chair because he understands how this commission works and he understands those roles.
That's fine with me.
Uh-oh. What does that mean?
Who's our
Yeah. Well,
Well, put it this way. I would say two things. One is, I understand it is conceivable that I've been shirking my responsibilities over the last few years, having not been the chair. And so I'm certainly willing to do that. I also think that, as has been demonstrated through history, Vice Chairperson Goldstein would also make a fantastic chairperson. So
once again, it is up to Tim Zinner Davis to determine my future.
Well, I will say, and I think Heidi, you actually kind of got roped into doing 2 years in a row. And so I think that and I think Izzy, I think that I think it would be nice to see you in the role. I think that just you're so able to take in, and this is not to say that you didn't, but
No.
but you're just able to see every perspective, and even in your comments, it's clear that you're clearly listening to all of the comments, all of the concerns, and you always try and kind of bring those to fore, so that we're really listening and paying attention to those things that really stood out to you. And I think that that's really helped us drive some of our agendas, that someone's made a comment and you're like, hey, they said this, I thought that was really important. I really think we should, really pay attention to this. And so then we pay attention to it, and it becomes, part of our discussions. And so I just think that it would be great to have you as chairperson.
well, if I'm elected, I will accept.
If elected, I will serve. Right? I'm going to move actually then that Isaiah Roeder be our chair for next year.
And I will second.
Agreed. Thank you. And that Mr. Carter is our vice chair.
Well, all right, I will second
Okay.
that.
I agree.
Okay. Thank you.
I was not implying you were shirking. Not at all. Please don't think I was, but I'm happy to see that.
Congratulations.
Thanks.
Congrats.
All right. Item 12, our discussion item. So that will be the classification and compensation study phase 1 recommendation. Executive Director.
Yes, thank you. No, I wanted to agendize any opportunity that you felt you wanted to discuss amongst yourselves, what you found, observations, track changes. Now that you reviewed some of the track changes, did you have any recommendations for the steering committee or me and my team? Again, it's just an opportunity for you. We don't have to discuss it, but I wanted to agendize it since the three of you were meeting today.
There's one thing I'd like to queue up here, and we've talked about this a little bit before. Despite the fact that all our numbers are looking good and that we've got very robust lists, there are still some roles where we come up thin. And I think the pattern that I've seen is the reason we come up thin is they tend to be more entry-level roles, and yet they have certification requirements. So for example, nutrition services needs a food handling certification. Or if you are a school safety officer, there are some certifications and trainings that you need in crowd control and understanding of laws, based on work that you will be doing there. And one of the things I'd like for the district to consider, and I'm not sure, I guess it could come as a recommendation for us, but that we should talk through some more, is that for these roles where historically we just are not, we still have trouble filling things. I would like to see us consider a different approach with respect to how we draw in candidates who may or may not have those baseline certifications, and how the district supports those individuals in terms of getting them. So in a previous discussion, for example, Mildred Scher mentioned that Berkeley Adult School does classes for people to get a food handling certification. And probably if we were to bring someone in, who is interested in the job, enthusiastic about being here, et cetera, the kind of support they would need might be time to go get the certification, or support for the cost of the class for the certification. I'm not sure what the right thing is, but I suspect that there is more that we can do to make some of these hard to fill jobs more attractive, so that we can actually get talent and fill them and develop folks and do that. So that's one item I wanted to put forward. That's what I learned from phase one.
Commissioner Rhoda?
Well, yeah, I did have some questions and comments, but following up on what Vice Chairperson Goldstein just said, we did talk a little bit about that at the last meeting in terms of nutrition services, and that was very useful. So I think that it seems to me there's sort of two things going on here. There may be more, but there's two things going on here. One is, what are the minimum qualifications for a particular position? And that, of course, is a role that the commission can establish. And so if there's a specific job classification that's been hard to recruit for, entry level, that sort of thing, and actually I'm going to bring one up that I noticed in this group of 21, 22. But if there's a minimum qualification that maybe really doesn't need to be there, then that's something we can do. And we can either recommend it to the board as part of this process, or we can just establish it later on as the commission, because we set the minimum qualifications. So that's one thing. Another different thing is, so like food handler, that may be a requirement, whether it's in the ed code or the health and safety code, or, that just might be a requirement that somebody in that position needs a food handler certification. But there are ways, and as you said, Mildred Scher talked about the adult school. So there may be ways of helping applicants, not so much applicants, but helping employees and applicants achieve those certifications. We can make those suggestions and those recommendations, I think, to the district, but they're not really I don't think, part of the classification description exactly, although they're very important. So, and I don't see any substitute for dealing with this kind of on a case-by-case, classification-by-classification basis. But I think if I can translate, perhaps I'm probably putting words in your mouth, Heidi, but Charlie suggested that if we had suggestions for the steering committee, that he'll present them to the steering committee. And it sounds like one suggestion we might make, or are making, is take a look at the minimum qualifications to see for hard to recruit positions, are they appropriate to each circumstance?
So I agree. Minimum quals is one thing to look at, but I am really asking for something different.
Right.
I'm asking for dialogue about some better support for some of the hard to fill positions. And, the other ones that come to mind, and you said you had one, we have a pool servicing technician classification that I think has only come up once since I've sat on the commission. And that was an example at the time where we agreed to sort of bend the rules. The cert is needed. there's no question. And I think we'd be remiss if we didn't include it, as a minimum qual, so I look at this problem and I think we need HR as a stakeholder partner here, because if the district says, look, we can try an education campaign to make sure that people who might be interested, understand the cert is necessary and that they can take X, Y, and Z kind of steps, either to, try to get it through the adult school or through a different program. But the question is it a condition of hire, right? And what does it mean if we're going to conditionally hire someone who is in the process of getting a cert, or, says that they will get the cert, in a month's time or 6 months' time? And that's where it really starts to need the coordination with the HR organization, because they've got to watch it. They've got to make sure that it happens. And if it doesn't happen, they have to unwind it, and they need to be willing to do that, so it's a little more complex for sure. And it is really asking that the district do something a little different in terms of the support that it is willing to provide for certain roles that have specific requirements. That has sort of been ad hoc, case by case now. And, it may never get any better than that. But I'm especially concerned for this with school safety officers, and not just BUSD. Every school I know of is having trouble filling these roles. And if we don't do something different, either we are using outside safety officers, which, is sort of a different question. Is the district able to use temporary resources if they can't fill a position? And how does the union feel about that? And generally the union doesn't feel too good about that. So, I would like us to really look at other solutions where we, build our own, is the term that's often used.
I might suggest I can bring both points to the steering committee tomorrow. As a matter of fact, Commissioner Roeder's coming to our steering committee tomorrow. So maybe you want to share and I can share your thoughts. But that's helpful feedback. Thank you.
Did you have some? Oh, okay, so I did have some couple of questions and then a few comments, but I don't know if it's appropriate or not. So my first question, this might be directed to Sarah. I'm not 100% sure. But when we're looking, and thank you, by the way, very, very much for providing us with these red line job descriptions. That's really helpful. So you indicated, I think, that if something is in bold, regardless of the color, that was suggested by a supervisor. So and there aren't that many of those, there are some, but the things that are not in bold, the changes, additions and deletions that are not in bold, are those, what are those? Are those changes suggested by EHA based on input from the employees? Is that how that works?
Oh, I hit the wrong button. So the other input that's not in bold would be either it was inputted by EHA related to the JCQ, and or during which would be the employee input, or it would have been occurring for the conversation between the employee and EHA during the interview.
Great, thank you. That makes sense. Okay, so that I understand. So my process question is, so I understand what we've been given are job descriptions which the steering committee agrees with, and theoretically that would be the unions also agree, as do the managers and all of that. Okay, but there's an equal number in phase one that I guess the union still has some issues with. So with respect to those, I'm just wondering how those will be, and Charlie, you've mentioned correctly, meet and confer obligations, and we've been told a number of times, most recently by Samantha, that yes, before anything goes to the board, if the union feels that a particular job description requires a meet and confer, the district will meet and confer. My question is, on those, say they're 21, I don't know the exact number, where there's some disagreement about, the question is, are those going to come before this commission at some point? And if they do come before the commission, will they come before the meet and confer occurs, or after the meet and confer occurs, or not at all? And the reason I ask that is, it just kind of seems to me, and I'm just speaking, you know, thinking out loud, really. And I definitely, I don't know if the union officials can are listening to this. They probably are. But put it this way: if I was the union, I might think, "Gee, I can get 2 bites of the apple on this. I can come before the commission and state my case and state my objections, and maybe the district will state what they think, or maybe the district will agree, or there'll be something else, and then the commission can think about it, and we may agree with the union's changes, in which case that would be our recommendation, and that would obviate the need for a meet and confer potentially. And there may be others where, you know, we just say, no, we don't really know who's right or which is the right approach, and that would go on to meet and confer. And I'm just thinking perhaps the scope, the number of disagreements can be reduced if they come before the commission first. Now, the union may disagree with me completely, and that's absolutely their right and prerogative. They may just say, no, we don't want the commission butting in, and we just want to do the meet and confer. But you know, we don't have to decide this now because we don't have those 21 even in front of us, but it's sort of food for thought, and maybe at the next meeting, if the union doesn't have a position on this right now, maybe the union could think about it as to what they would like to do. So that's one thing.
Oh, if you have 2 things.
Well, I have some specific questions about some of these a few of the specific job descriptions.
Should I answer your first question?
Please do.
So I'll answer it. I tried to check to see if Samantha was in attendance, but it doesn't appear that she is. So I'll speak for her as best I can. What we've discussed is that 3 bucket kind of philosophy, which is there are the positions that the steering committee can get consensus on, and they're sending over to the commission for recommendation. There are the ones that are meeting and conferring. And then the 3rd bucket, I believe, are the more intricate ones that involve not just job description changes, but compensation as well. We haven't gotten to that phase yet, but I believe, and I haven't had a chance to talk to Samantha about this, but I do believe there's some merit in what you're stating, which is if we can get consensus around some of these jobs with the steering committee, perhaps it would be helpful to the district. And I have to defer to the district on this because they are the ones that are meeting and conferring. My role here is an extension of the commission, which is we're just going to facilitate and assist in any way we can. But really the direction of the meet and confer is on the district side and of course the union side. That said, I had always tried to figure out and intended to have our commissioners weigh in to try to, again, like I do, facilitate a solution. And it may be that if the union was amenable to maybe not all the meet and confer jobs, but some, that they would perhaps be encouraged to come and say, you know, we're pretty close. This is where we are. What is your opinion? And as we all know, the commission's opinion does hold weight with our HR director at the district. Samantha does listen, right? So for what it's worth, I do plan, now that you've stated it openly, I definitely am going to go ahead and talk to Samantha about it. I will encourage, if I'm hearing you correctly, that maybe there's a role for the commission to weigh in on some of those jobs that the unions intend to meet and confer on. And perhaps maybe the consensus can be drawn through a recommendation from the commission to the district. So I will definitely try to find where that place is, but in all actuality, I'm just trying to see this to January 30th right now. And then after January 30th, then that as you had stated, the real work begins. So at that time, I probably will get a little bit more in the weeds as to how that would work. But I think it's a great recommendation. And I wholeheartedly agree with you. I think there is a place for us. I'm just going to talk to Sam about it.
I believe Mildred has a question or comment. Mildred?
Thank you. The question I have is because I need clarification on what Charlie said, that the December 13th meeting was going to be. He said something about class and comp and recommendation for. I didn't hear the whole thing, and I wanted to ask, what is the December 13th meeting for the class and comp?
I think it's an opportunity again for us as a steering committee to complete as much as we can for phase 1 and phase 2, so that we can repeat the process here, so I can share the job descriptions that we have consensus on, that the steering committee has said, yeah, we're recommending these. Hey, commission, what do you think for your review? So that's what we intend to do for December 13th, is to finish phase 1, finish phase 2, share those job descriptions with the commissioners like we did tonight.
Okay. So you didn't say, so nothing about rates being recommendation for rates on December 13th? I thought I heard you say something about recommendation of rates or something.
No, I did not. I'm sorry if I misspoke, but no, I don't
Okay.
recall saying that. And actually, I wrote out the comments for that. So no, I don't remember that.
Okay, I just wanted to make sure I was clarifying, because I'm trying to keep up with the whole class and comp, but you're hoping that we can be done going through phase 1 and phase 2 by the 13th.
That's my hope. Yes.
Okay, thank you for answering my question.
Thank you, Mildred.
Frank, you have a question or comment?
Yeah, I have a comment. Let's see. I'll just come out with say that the union has the right to meet and confer on all the job classifications. And the reason why I'm saying that first is the committee might have gave their recommendations, but that was a consensus. I don't believe that necessarily the union agrees with all of those that are being brought forward tonight, or the ones that they're not saying they want to meet and confer on. So what I'm saying is, even if the committee has said, they agree with these job descriptions, I don't necessarily believe the union BCCE agrees with them, and they might want to meet and confer on those job classifications that are being, brought forward. I don't know if that answers, or maybe that makes things a little bit more muddier. But what I'm trying to say is, I was in the last meeting, the committee meeting, and it was, in my opinion, it was kind of rushed through, and we're trying to get some of these job descriptions out there so the PC could look at them, but at the same time, BCCE hasn't said, oh yeah, we're good with these job descriptions. We still need to meet and confer on all of them, and that's all I have to say.
Thank you, Frank. Mildred, I see your hand up, but I think it's still up from your last question. Oh, Malik, I'm sorry. Malik. I should really put my glasses on.
Yeah,
Malik,
it's an M, so you were kind of close a little bit.
Sorry.
Hi, I was just kind of piggybacking off of what Ms. Shears just said. I heard that Charlie was going to be doing a recommendation of compensation as well. So maybe he misspoke, but I just wanted to clarify that. Is that not a part of the 13th meeting?
No, I think it is just trying to finish up the work that the steering committee was doing and then repeating that here at but I don't think there's any recommendations happening at that meeting.
Okay, great. Because just a small concern of mine is I wanted to ensure that all of the rates are being pulled at the same time so that it could be fair across the board for all of the groups. Thank you.
Thank you, Malika. You know, and I should mention, I was mentioning the unions, but there will be an opportunity in phase 3 to not just review 21, but Malika is confidential, right? So confidential, unrepresented. I hope I didn't not mention them, but I'm mentioning them now just in case I did not.
Thank you. All right, Commissioner Roeder.
So my question now, Mr. Chairman, is and these are, not very extensive comments, but 1, 2, 3, 4. I have 5 out of these 21 that I looked at and have some questions about. Is it appropriate? Again, I'm a little sort of semi-confused on the process, but that's okay. Is it appropriate now to go ahead and set forth those
Sure.
suggestions or questions?
I'll do my best.
All right, so let's see. I have to go back to I'm trying to do this on my iPad here, which I think will work. All right, so the first one was the district services assistant. And in the maybe I could borrow your glasses. They might be stronger than mine. Let's see. On the district services, and this is the one that relates to what we were talking about, minimum qualifications. So let's see.
Sarah's put it up on the big screen. I know we don't.
Yeah, I
don't have our monitors
No, I
today,
can't see
but
it on the monitor.
yeah.
Well, anyhow, so it's under education and experience, and it says any combination equivalent to graduation from high school and 1 year of responsible clerical experience involving public, and then it has the word public and student contact. And I am wondering, does this job, because this is an entry-level job, does this job really, I can understand having contact with the public, but what if couldn't somebody come out of a non-student, a non-education environment and fill this entry-level job perfectly well, so that the requirement that they have student, I mean, if we change the word and to or, that would be good, or just deleted student. That's my suggestion, in line a little bit with what Vice Chairperson Goldstein was saying previously.
I'm inclined to agree with you, but I think what I will do, and I'm not copying out, I just want to maybe represent the steering committee rather than your executive director. I think I'm going to take note of these questions and then ask the steering committee either in an email or maybe perhaps ask the hiring manager for the positions that you're having questions about. But I tend to agree with you. I'm looking at my team. I tend to agree with you.
Okay. The next one was just, I guess it's called Executive Assistant 1. And there, It was under the basic function. So under the direction of an assistant associate superintendent, perform highly responsible and confidential secretarial and administrative assistant duties to relieve, oh, it's just the wording there. I think something was left out. The assistant superintendent was deleted, but then it just says to relieve the of a variety of administrative duties, details. So it's to relieve, and it's probably should be something like to relieve the administrator. There's a word missing. Okay. All right, this one is going to be silly. Under under instructional specialist, let's see, where is that? Okay. I'm telling you, this is going to be silly. I think it's at the end. Yes, the hazards, exposure to bloodborne pathogens and infectious diseases. I don't think the word thorns has an E. Not sure what kind of thorn that would be, but, huh? Well, it says exposure to bloodborne pathogens and infections. Then we added, or somebody added, thorns, fine particulate matter, dirt, compost, mulch, insects, hand tools, but the word thorns is spelled with an E.
Not even as a last name.
Well, that's the thing. I could be right. I mean, maybe that's the British spelling. Now, this next one's a little bit more substantive, and it's really just a question. So it's under the school administrative assistant early childhood. Let's see, what is it? School administrative. Somebody, do you know which of those school administrative assistants is early childhood? I can't see that on my iPad. Yeah, is that the first, second, third, fourth, fifth, or sixth school administrative assistant?
Should be the first.
Is that the first? Okay, it's just not coming up
It should be
on
the
my
first.
iPad.
Yeah.
And school, yes, it is. So my question on this one is, if my recollection is correct, and you need to correct me if I'm wrong, that it was this classification in which two of the incumbents came forward because of work that they were performing outside of the classification as it was, as it is currently, you know, as it was at that time. And then the commission reclassified those two employees,
Yes.
and I forget to which classification.
It was a school admin too.
Okay, to school admin 2. So my question is, how does the revisions to this classification which has to do with receiving and processing invoices according to established procedures, verify work completed or materials received, obtain management approval for payment, research, compile, and verify a variety of data information, compute statistical information for various reports as necessary, process a variety of forms and applications related to assigned functions. Again, my memory may not be correct, but that sounds a bit like some of the functions that those two incumbents were performing that gave rise to the reclassification, because what I just read are additions. So what's the relationship between the admin 2 and the revisions to this position?
It's an expansion of those duties. I think that the big difference is that for the school admin too, there's more of an accounting and fiscal kind of reconciliation function with vendors and those kinds of things. So there is an expansion of the fundamental duties, but if you look at the school admin too, it's a lot larger. The scope is a lot larger than
Okay.
that.
Okay, that,
Yeah.
I understand that.
Yeah.
That makes sense. So there's still a purpose to be served for the two employees who had been early childhood education to have been reclassified, and they're performing work at a higher classification than the revisions to this classification.
Still, yes.
Yes. Now, okay, so that answers my first question. My second question on this is, what if there is an incumbent in this position who does not perform, and I don't know if this is the case or not, but who does not perform these revised functions?
I don't have the answer to that.
Okay,
That would be I don't have the answer to that.
okay, and that might be a meet and confer item. Probably would be. Okay, well, I understand that. And admin. Oh, the last one is office assistant. Office. Let's see, where is office assistant? Well, what I wrote down was office assistant, but now I'm not. Maybe it's, could it be school services assistant? Oh, I see what happened.
Yeah, we do.
School services assistant
Oh, yes.
has been revised to be office assistant. That's the suggestion of, I guess, EHA. This one seemed to be in an entirely different format than all the others. And I think that's problematic. And secondly,
Yeah.
lastly, I think when it came to, I think it's the skills, the training and experience. It just seemed a bit ragtag and needs some more work.
I'm going to quote Camila Castillo. It's because it's old. And when she talks about me, right? This is an old job description.
Okay,
You're going to see a few of these jobs that look like this because actually EHA determined that the format for a lot of our job descriptions was good. But this one was not formatted like the other ones. So it's almost as though they're taking a fresh stab at this one. That's why it looks so different. That's why it caught my eye too, because it's the second to last one in the batch. Am I missing something, Sarah? I mean, that's Aaron. Yeah.
I can speak to that particular classification. At some point, the district did not want to continue filling it. And so when we had our last classification and compensation study, it wasn't even included back then, which is why it looks like it's in that very, very old format, because that was what our job descriptions looked like before the last consultant Ewing. So it didn't go through that process, but the district since then has decided to keep that classification. So it's being included. It just seems like EHA has not been able to update the format, but at some point they will all be updated.
good. Thank you, Aaron. That's what I was going to suggest is that this one go back to EHA for another look, because it's just not ready yet. Thank you for indulging me, Mr. Chairman.
No, thank you, Commissioner Roeder. All right, any other questions, comments?
No, this is more for the public. I mean, this is exactly why we're bringing these to the commission.
Mhm.
So that the commission is asking questions that if we can't answer, we can take back to the steering committee or EHA. I mean, and this is part of the process. So.
If I could, I just want to make sure that we talked about it earlier, but one of the other things that is going back is that question of job descriptions with no input. I don't know if somebody's automatically just kind of lumping them into meet and confer or
No, I'm sorry.
or what, but
answer that.
oh, okay.
I'm sorry I missed that question, Vice Chair Goldstein, but we did identify, and I don't have the list in front of me, but we did identify for EHA classifications and employees that we wanted them to go back to. It wasn't 21, but it was probably around 8 or 9 that we identified, which then in essence, by talking to these or re-interviewing or re-engaging some of these employees, we had hoped to tackle the 21 non-response issue because, you know, if we speak to one security officer, maybe it, you know, touches on these, you know, so we did go back and we did speak to some of these folks. Did we complete all of them? No. Okay, good. Thank you, Sarah. Sarah can share a spreadsheet that would be helpful. So here's our spreadsheet. I know it's not ideal because we don't have our screens. Can we blow it up a little bit? Thank you, Sarah.
So this is showing all of this is from phase 2, not phase 1. I believe that's what you were asking about, Vice Chairperson. So these are all of the classifications that that did not return an employee input form after they reviewed the revised, or they received the revised job description. As I scroll over, you can sort of notice, well, I'll probably send this to you because it'll be easier for you to see, but the big breakdown of that is that there are only a couple of those actually that had no participation whatsoever. So in theory, you could guess that probably if people had participated by the JCQ or an interview, that the job description should be fairly on point. For those 2 that didn't, there was nothing. Those were definitely 2 that need to be going back to, but the EHA has this entire list and they just haven't gotten back to us yet on what the next steps are going to be. But I'll share the spreadsheet because to me, it felt a little bit stronger or not as vulnerable for all those classifications because there had been participation. They didn't respond to the revised job description, but they did participate. So the input should be there.
All right. Thank you all. We are now going to move on to item I'm sorry. Yes, I did see Miss Diggs Ray and then Mildred.
Yes, my question is, I'm sorry, I just want to confirm that with the comp class study, no change in job descriptions or duties is supposed to be happening until it's finished, correct?
Correct.
Thank you.
Mildred.
Thank you. I'm just a little confused because we were just talking, I just saw that office assistant job description. And I'm looking in my book that the steering committee received regarding the job description, and I don't see that job description of office assistant nowhere in the materials that we have received. So my concern and my question is, when did this job description happen? Because it's not in anything that we received. So I'm confused. It's not on the report that we have. So I guess my question is, my concern is, are things happening that hasn't been brought to the steering committee first? And like, so I'm starting to become even more concerned that things are just happening and popping up and then they're being brought to the commission, but they haven't been brought to the steering committee yet.
Okay, that's not happening. That hasn't happened. We're very thorough. And we make sure that everyone on the steering committee gets everything that we're sharing. What is it a steering? It's
So that office assistant job is proposed renaming of a classification that was previously school services assistant.
so it was the school services assistant, but this is a proposed title.
No, Charlie, I understand that. What I'm saying is that I don't see it on the report. And I'm not saying anyone is not being thorough or not being thorough. I'm just trying to understand this process, Charlie, because it's a lot and it seems like it keeps changing. So I don't see it in any of the materials that the steering committee received, and I don't see it in the report, sir.
Okay, I will double check. Is it on September 15th?
I'm just going through both
Which-
books that we received from the phase 1 and from phase 2. And then I was just trying to look in what Sarah has sent out, and I don't see it. Because that's one of the ones that I'm sure that we would have pulled and would have questioned. I'm talking about BCCE.
Well, you can pull it and question it right now. I mean,
I would like to do that. Thank
yeah,
you.
I think that's absolutely fine. And
Thank you.
yeah. So let's, so BCC is pulling that job out now, and I just said it was okay. I hope that's okay with the commissioners.
But Frank did say we would still be able to meet and confer, because I also just saw something with the executive assistant 1 that I have questions about too, because the changes that I just saw on the screen is not the changes that I have on the job description that we received. So I would like to pull that one too, please, Charlie. Thank
Is
you.
Executive Assistant 1?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And Mildred, I want to thank you for your patience. I mean, I don't want anyone to be confused about the process. I am trying to get everyone included in participating. And when everyone is participating, it doesn't mean that it's negating anything else that anyone else said or did. So obviously, if you say that now after review and after the commissioner's comments, we want these pulled, that's absolutely part of the process, and that's fine.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. I don't see any other hands, so I think we are moving on. We're moving on to item 13, public comments. You have 15 minutes for public comment. So if you have a public comment, now is your chance. I see Ms. Diggs raise hand.
Yes, I am speaking on behalf of Marie Ferguson, who is the school administrative 2 subspecialist at Berkeley High School. She's a rank 48, and this is regarding the class and study, working on a class due to shift in duties, enrollment change. Her first concern is that duties were added to her in February of 2023 regarding the enrollment process between Berkeley High School, Berkeley Technology Academy, Berkeley Independent Study, and Home Hospital Instruction. Originally, this process was done through admission. Now admission has been removed from the process, so it goes straight to Marie at Berkeley High. The second concern is, as of 11/27/23, there's another new enrollment process from middle to high school. Again, admissions had been removed from the process due to school board policy change. However, the board policy change does not mention the shifting of duties to the high school. Previously, these enrollment duties were being performed at a higher range of 52 in the admissions office. However, again, Marie is not being compensated for any of the duty changes as she is just a 48. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Diggs Ray. Frank.
Yeah, I would like to add or speak to what Mildred spoke on during union comment. And that is, well, I just want to say I believe in the merit rules and regulations. What's great about it is there's a process, there's procedures in there, and it's all written out for us to see. And may not agree all the time with them, but I live by them, right? I read them all the time and come here and I speak on them and try to help our members work through the merit system. But when there's no process or procedures in place, I don't quite understand. And what I'm speaking on is what Mildred was saying. You have a promotion getting a 77, and that's not good enough. And it just doesn't feel right. I don't understand. Mildred threw out some numbers about how many people took the test, how many people passed. But what I didn't hear was how many promotions took the test and how many promotions passed. And that's important because if we're trying to promote from within, that's part of the merit system, right? It says we try to promote. I don't understand how you could get a 77, which I think in most worlds, that's a passing grade. And I'm not even saying what a passing grade should be. I'm just saying 77 is, sounds like a good number to me. How that promotion person doesn't make the cut, and how many others didn't make the cut. I think if you're going to be drawing a line on who to cut and who's not to cut, you need to look at promotionals first. That should be somewhere where you draw that line. And I'll speak on something that happened about 3 years ago in the department I'm in, maintenance. There was a job posted for a supervisor, and 5 people applied for promotion, and only one of them, this is what the hearsay was, only one of them passed with a 70-something score. So the commission or whoever was in charge dropped the score all the way down to 50 and accepted all of them, which is fine and dandy. I think that's great. They wanted to reach out and get all the promotions that they could get, and that was the whole list. Was just 5 promotion. There was no outside list. I could see where you could drop the score to try to reach those promotions. I don't understand why you would ever cut the score to eliminate promotions. That makes no sense to me. And I'd like to add one thing or ask Charlie or the PC commissioners, can we revisit this list? Is there any way we could revisit this list and get the promotions on that list? I don't think that's a big ask. It wasn't, 3-point difference. I mean, really? That's what we're doing? We're cutting out a promotion for 3 points? Can we revisit? So I'm asking the question, can we revisit this list and get that promotion or promotions on that list for the custodian supervisor position at the high school? Thank you.
Thank you, Frank. Ms. Diggs Ray, your hand is still up. So is that from your last comment?
So, the question that I have now is regarding the merit rules revision. Wondering where we are, when will they be available? That's my question.
I think I understood your question, Denise. Basically, where does the merit rules revision process stand, and will those revisions be available? And so maybe I can address that. As I think you know, and others know, that the executive director and I have spent the last couple of years really going through primarily a combination of the model merit rules that have been promulgated and our district's merit rules and some other merit rules from some other districts, such as the Los Angeles County Office of Education, which we found pretty useful. We have gone through many, maybe I could even say most, of the sections in the merit rules. I was going to talk about this at the next meeting, and I probably will, but for your benefit, we've gone through and we have identified areas in the model rules that we think might be superior to our current rules. We've also found areas where we think our current rules are superior to the model rules. And we're at a stage now where we're going to transition. This is all still very much in the draft process, but we're going to revise our technique a little bit, and probably starting in January, I, with probably Sarah's assistance, we're going to take our current rules and create a red line that incorporates some of our thinking, or most of our thinking, that has gone so far. So we'll maintain our current numbering system, and we'll add things and we'll delete things, and those will be in a red line format. And then the goal is going to be to have, and I think we'll probably do it in sections, is to have a red line available for a special call meeting or a multiple special call meetings, where the commissioners, the district, the union, employees who are interested, anyone can provide their input into this ongoing draft so far. But right now, it's not in a condition that's really, I would say, amenable for even a draft review. And that's what we're going to try to do. Sarah and I, probably, hopefully, mostly me, after Sarah gets me started. But and that's what we'll be presenting to you and to the commissioners in multiple special call meetings. So hopefully, I know it's been a little long-winded, but hopefully that clarifies where things stand and what we plan on doing.
Thank you, Commissioner Roeder. All right, we are now at item 14. Our next meeting is December 13th. Because of the holidays, we've moved it up so that we can get that December meeting in. So again, that's December 13th, same bat time, same bat channel. And with that, we will go to item 15 and adjourn this meeting. Good night, and thank you everyone for participating.